Hello, I've decided to create a small video to show you why I think newbie bloggers should be using my e-course to learn how to create a blog. Otherwise, how else are you going to know why I think it's so great? Once upon a time, I was actually a newbie blogger myself. And I think that's important to be aware of, that I do remember my first days when I decided that I was going to use a blog, create a blog and use it and understand it and write stuff to go in it. To be honest, at the very beginning I was actually a really rubbish writer and a really rubbish blogger, and I knew nothing about technology and I knew nothing how to start a blog, so I literally googled blog and came across Blogger. And that's the reason why my first blog in 2006 was actually using Blogger. But then I understood that my mother was also using a blog and it was on WordPress. So I popped over to WordPress and created a WordPress.com blog, which I found to be absolutely brilliant and definitely worthwhile changing all my posts over to WordPress.com. But then things changed, and I found out about WordPress.org. And this is where it really began to get interesting, because it's really where my learning curve went sky high. And this is why I don't recommend that newbie bloggers start with WordPress.org. I think you should start with WordPress.com, because it is actually quite difficult to understand. And another reason why I think you should cut your teeth as a newbie blogger on WordPress.com is that you can get to understand everything there is to do about using a blog and how to use WordPress, so that when your blog becomes really brilliant and successful and needs to move next level, then you are over halfway there when you make that decision to WordPress.org. Anyway, so let's move on. I explain jargon in ordinary words. Now this is important because a lot of the terminology used in blogging is actually American. And if you're British like me, it can be quite bamboozling to come across a word you are not au fait or used to. We are becoming much more au fait with American now. It's not that uncommon to even use it in our everyday speech, but there are certain words that are specific to the American language that needs to be translated. I'm not undermining the Americans anyway, or even the British not understand the Americans. It is a fact that there are words that we as Brits need to understand and get our way around. I obviously got to know these by trial and error, and obviously by being curious, and so I learnt them the hard way. And therefore, because I learnt them hard way, I therefore feel I'm able to actually explain them to you much more easily, because I can actually then try to relate the jargon word to something that you, the learner, the newbie blogger, can already knows and understands. This actually is much more apparent in my personal tuition, because I really get to understand my pupil and my student and try and adapt what my explanations and my teaching to something that they can understand and relate to. But even so, I still like to rearrange jargon so that it is in ordinary words and ordinary explanations, so that everybody can understand without having to be a techie or a blogging expert. So that's another reason why I don't want jargon to turn you off and put you off blogging, which is not a good idea, because blogging is brilliant, and that's why I've done this e-course in the first place. I never assume prior knowledge when I teach blogging or do my e-courses. Some teachers and experts forget that people sometimes know absolutely nothing or starting right at the very beginning. And it's important to be aware that to actually go from level 0 when starting with a newbie course, I literally go down to the very beginning, the very grassroots, the foundation that the course is built on, the concept of blogging is built on. And that is so important when starting any newbie course. Every lesson I create has a purpose of finish point. You can actually have something to achieve at the end of it all. You can go away and use it, and that's very important because it all connects together. So using 1 goes to 2, and then 1 and 2 make more sense when you then go to 3, and so on. So you actually can start with each lesson. You can actually start using that lesson and practice with it, and it becomes more meaningful. And of course, I never miss out stages or miss out chunks, because I never assume that my students on my e-courses know anything in advance. Neither do I undermine you if you do know it, because if you do know it, that's great, and go ahead and understand it better. But if you don't, it's very important that every single stage is properly explained to you, so that nothing is missed out and you understand every single aspect before you move on to the next stage. I use arrows to point to all the bits and pieces that you need to do. I specifically tag onto them areas that explain what the arrows are supposed to be doing, and that's very important to me, because this clear method of using arrows and explanation means that there are instructions that you can follow by each arrow. And as you can see, when you've read one instruction, you've gone to the next, it is grayed out, but you can still read it just in case you need to recap on what procedure or transaction you are doing. And it's also very important to me to use reassuring screenshots, because when you are have been shown a specific icon or link that you need to click on, it's important therefore to show the outcome for reassurance, to make sure you've done the right thing and you're looking at the right next stage in what you're supposed to have done. And I think that's important too, to never assume that once you clicked on something, you therefore automatically know what comes, and I need to show you with reassuring screenshots that that has happened and that is the right page you are looking at and the right thing you should be doing. I use slides when I use my I do my e-courses, and this is important because they have back and forward buttons which allow you to go forwards and backwards at your own pace to remind you what's gone on before, and if you think you know it, you can go quickly on to the next slide if you think you know that particular slide and you've done that before. I have deliberately not used video like this video for this purpose, because therefore it is much easier to go back as many slides as you like to remind yourself about an earlier transaction, or if you didn't get it the first time, to go back and look at it again. With video, it's much more difficult to go back and remind yourself of past things that happened, rather than have to go all the way back to the beginning, which is a real pain. So when I create my e-courses, I think hard about what each newbie blogger really needs for their new blog. And when you've finished my course, you will have at the end of it a fully functional blog you can start using straight away. And I mean fully functional. There are elements that you will be proud to show off to your visitors and your readers, because you have incorporated them into your blog, and they will be fully functional and very usable, and you'll make your blog look absolutely the best thing since sliced bread. Perfect for starting your blogging career. And of course, I'm always here to help you. Here's my last slide. So here's all the details of how you can get hold of me, and my website, my Twitter, my Facebook page, and my LinkedIn, and there's lots of other bits and pieces you can find out from my WordPress, my blog as well, and my website, to find out more about how you can get hold of me, including my email in case you need to ask me a question. I love questions. Ask me as many questions as you like. There's no need for you sitting in the dark worrying about you don't understand it. Ask me and I will explain to you in the best way I possibly can to help you in your blogging career. Thank you so much for listening to this small video about why you should be using my e-course if you are a newbie blogger.